No nanny lasted a week with the triplets until the poor cook did the impossible. Michael Thompson watched yet another nanny walk out the main door of his mansion in tears, hurriedly carrying her suitcases. She was the 15th in 2 years. The 4-year-old triplets had won another battle, leaving the living room completely destroyed with toys scattered, cushions torn, and marker stains on the white walls. From inside the kitchen, Dorothy Wilson stopped peeling potatoes upon hearing the children's screams echoing through the house. Michael was trying to calm down Ethan, Nathan, and Emma, but the 3 little ones seemed inconsolable. They screamed, threw themselves on the floor, and hurled everything they could get their hands on. "Daddy doesn't know anything. We want Mommy," shouted Emma, the only girl among the triplets. "She's never coming back," Nathan added, kicking a toy car that flew across the room. Ethan, always the quietest of the 3, just cried profusely in the corner of the room, clutching a worn-out teddy bear. Dorothy dropped the peeling knife in the sink and walked to the door separating the kitchen from the living room. At 52, she had started working at the Thompson house just 3 months earlier. She was a simple woman from the countryside of Kentucky, with hands calloused from work and a smile always present on her tanned face. Without asking for permission, she entered the room and approached the triplets. Michael had his back turned, trying to pick up the pieces of a vase that Emma had broken. Dorothy knelt in the middle of the chaos and began to softly sing a song her grandmother used to sing when she was little. "Ba ba, black sheep, have you any wool?" Yes sir, 3 bags full." The 3 pairs of brown eyes turned to her immediately. The crying stopped as if by magic. Emma stopped screaming. Nathan dropped the toy he was about to throw, and Ethan lifted his tear-streaked face. "Who are you?" Nathan asked, sniffling. "I'm Aunt Dorothy. I make the delicious food you eat every day." "The food is burning," Emma observed, sniffing the air. Dorothy smiled and held out her hands to them. "So, can you help me save lunch?" To Michael's astonishment, who had turned around upon hearing the silence, the 3 triplets stood up and followed Dorothy back to the kitchen. He followed them, curious and suspicious at the same time. The spacious, modern kitchen contrasted with Dorothy's simplicity. She turned down the stove heat and showed the children how to stir the pot without burning themselves. "Ethan can be in charge of this spoon here. Nathan, you take care of this pot. And Emma, you'll help me cut the tomatoes, but only after I show you how to hold the knife properly." Within minutes, the triplets were focused on their tasks, completely transformed. Michael watched from the doorway, incredulous. None of the previous nannies had managed to hold their attention for more than 5 minutes. "How did you do that?" he asked when Dorothy approached to get more ingredients. "Children need to feel useful, Mr. Michael. They want to help, not just receive orders. But they could get hurt here in the kitchen. They could get hurt anywhere if no one's watching them. The difference is that here they're learning something good." Michael hesitated. Dorothy was just the cook with no training in pedagogy or references from other wealthy families. Would it be appropriate to let her take care of the children? "I appreciate the help, but I'll need to hire another nanny. You have your work in the kitchen." Dorothy's face tightened a bit, but she nodded respectfully. "Of course, Mr. Michael. I was just helping because they seemed to need it." That afternoon, Michael called 3 more nanny agencies. They all promised to send candidates the next day. Dorothy served dinner in silence, avoiding looking at the triplets who watched her sadly. The next morning, the triplets refused breakfast. They sat at the table with their arms crossed and pouting expressions. "We don't want to eat," Emma declared. "Why not?" Michael asked impatiently. He had an important meeting in an hour. "We want Aunt Dorothy to sit with us," Nathan replied. "She's working. Nannies are the ones who sit with you to eat." "Then we're never going to eat again," Ethan said, pushing his plate away. Michael looked at his watch. He was already late. He called Dorothy from the kitchen. "They're throwing a tantrum. Can you convince them to eat?" Dorothy approached the table and sat in an empty chair. "Good morning, little ones. How did you sleep?" "I dreamed about monsters," Ethan answered quietly. "I dreamed that Mommy was making cookies," Emma added, her eyes watery. "And you, Nathan?" "I don't remember. I don't, but I woke up sad." Dorothy poured herself some coffee with milk and began to eat naturally. "Do you know what my grandma used to do when I was sad? She taught me how to make bread. She said that bread dough is like a child's heart. The more we knead it with care, the softer it becomes. The triplets watched her fascinated. Gradually, they began to eat too. Michael observed the scene and felt a pang of guilt. When was the last time he sat down to have breakfast with his children? Since Sarah had left 2 years ago, he had thrown himself into work to escape the pain. The children had been at the mercy of nannies who came and went, each with different methods, and none with enough patience. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The first nanny candidate arrived at 10 in the morning. She was a middle-aged woman, very serious, with her hair tied in a tight bun. She presented diplomas and certificates, talked about strict routines and discipline. Children need clear boundaries and immediate consequences for their actions, she explained to Michael in the living room. The triplets watched her from the stairs, hidden behind the banister. She looks like the witch from the Snow White story, Emma whispered to her brothers. Let's make her go away, Nathan suggested with a mischievous smile. How? Ethan asked, still unsure. The way we always do. The nanny went up to see the children's room. She found everything organized. 3 beds with matching quilts, a bunch of toys arranged on the shelves and walls decorated with colorful drawings. Very good. I see you know how to keep order, she said approvingly. Aunt Dorothy arranged it this morning, Emma replied innocently. From now on, you will tidy up yourselves. A child who doesn't take responsibility for their own belongings becomes a disorganized adult. Nathan exchanged a look with Emma. Ethan hid behind his sister. How about we show you our favorite toys? Emma suggested sweetly. The nanny nodded, thinking she was winning over the children. Emma opened a chest and started taking toys out, throwing everything on the floor on purpose. Nathan joined her, scattering Lego pieces everywhere. Ethan, encouraged by his siblings, knocked over a pile of books. In 2 minutes, the room was in complete chaos. Stop this immediately, the nanny shouted. But the triplets didn't stop. They started jumping on the beds, yelling and making even more mess. The woman tried to grab Emma, who slipped from her hands and kept running around the room. Mr. Michael, she called out desperately. When Michael reached the room, he found the nanny red with anger and his children hanging from the curtain, posing like monkeys. These children are impossible. I've never seen anything like it, she complained, gathering her papers. There isn't enough money in the world to make me work with those people. And she slammed the door on her way out. The triplets climbed down from the curtain rod, smiling victoriously. Michael stared at them, exhausted. Why do you do that? We don't like her, Nathan replied simply. She's mean, Emma added. And she can't make cookies, Ethan finished, thinking of Dorothy. Michael went down to the kitchen where Dorothy was preparing lunch. She was making a shepherd's pie and the delicious smell already filled the house. The nanny left, he announced, sitting on the stool at the kitchen island. I figured. I heard the noise from upstairs. I don't know what to do with them anymore, Dorothy. They're impossible. Dorothy stopped stirring the pot and turned to him. Can I say something, Mr. Michael? Of course. Those children aren't impossible. They're angry and scared. Scared of what? That you'll disappear too. Every new nanny that comes is just another person who leaves. They think if they push everyone away, you won't have a choice but to stay. Michael felt a lump in his throat. He had never thought of it that way. But I'm not going anywhere. They don't know that for a small child. Going to work is the same as disappearing. Mommy disappeared, the nannies disappear. All that's left is to be afraid that Daddy will disappear too. At that moment, the 3 of them appeared in the kitchen, drawn by the smell of food. Aunt Dorothy, can I help make the mashed potatoes? Emma asked. And I want to stir the beans, Nathan offered. Can I just watch? Ethan asked timidly. Of course you can, come here. Michael watched as Dorothy assigned simple tasks to each one, always with patience and affection. She praised every right move and corrected the wrong ones without yelling. Within half an hour, the triplets were proud of having cooked their own lunch. Dorothy, Michael called when she was washing the dishes. What would you think about looking after the boys this afternoon? Just until I can get another nanny. Her eyes lit up, but she tried to maintain her composure. If you think it won't interfere with my work in the kitchen, We'll manage with the food. The important thing is that someone takes good care of them. All right then. But just for today. That afternoon, Dorothy took the triplets to the backyard. The Thompson house had a huge garden with a pool, a playground, and lots of space to play, but the children preferred to stay inside, glued to the television. "Why don't you like to play outside?" she asked. "It's boring," Nathan replied, not taking his eyes off the screen. "Mommy used to play with us in here," Emma explained, pointing to the couch. Ethan just nodded in agreement with his sister. Dorothy understood. The backyard held no memories of their mother, so they avoided it. "What if we did something new outside? Something Mommy never did with you?" "What?" Emma asked, interested in spite of herself. "Let's plant a garden. Each of you can choose something to plant." "Plants are boring," Nathan protested. "No, they're not. They grow, they bloom, they bear fruit. It's like taking care of a pet, only green." "Can we plant French fries?" Ethan asked hopefully. Dorothy laughed. "We can plant potatoes and then make French fries with them." The idea excited the children. Dorothy had brought some herb seedlings from her own house, thinking of improving the Thompson family's meals. Now they would serve a much greater purpose. They spent the afternoon digging, planting, and watering. Their hands got dirty with soil, their clothes got stained, but the triplets were more excited than Michael had seen them in months. When he got home from work, he found his children in the backyard, each tending to their own little plot. "Look, Daddy, I planted chives," Emma shouted, running to him. "And I planted parsley," Nathan showed him proudly. "I planted basil, but I don't know how to say the name right," Ethan admitted, making everyone laugh. "Basil," Michael repeated, smiling. "That's perfect, son." Dorothy approached, wiping the dirt from her hands on a dish towel. They were wonderful helpers, very careful. "Thank you, Dorothy. I don't know how to thank you." "No need to thank me. They're good children. They just needed a little different attention." That night, the triplets ate everything Dorothy served, told their father about the garden, and went to sleep without throwing a tantrum. Michael couldn't believe the transformation. The next day, he cancelled the interviews with other nannies. Dorothy would take care of the boys, at least for now. The following weeks were the most peaceful the Thompson household had known since Sarah's departure. Dorothy developed a routine that mixed household chores with educational activities. The children helped cook, tended the garden, did simple experiments in the kitchen like mixing baking soda with vinegar to watch it fizz. She turned every moment into a learning experience. During lunch preparation, they would count the ingredients, learning math. While stirring the cake batter, she would invent stories about each ingredient. The egg that came from the brave hen, the flour that came from the wheat that faced rain and sun to grow strong. Michael started coming home earlier, curious to see what the children had learned that day. They would greet him at the door, competing to share the news. "Daddy, Aunt Dorothy taught us that tomato is a fruit," Emma announced one day. "And that we can make paint with beets," Nathan added, showing his hands stained purple. "And I learned to tie a tie just like yours," Ethan said proudly, fiddling with a piece of string around his neck. It was then that Barbara Thompson, Michael's mother, and the triplets' grandmother returned from her 3-month trip through Europe. She was an elegant 68-year-old woman, accustomed to the best social circles of New York City. She had traveled to emotionally recover from the loss of her daughter-in-law, as she herself said. Michael picked her up at the airport with the triplets. The children were excited to see Grandma Barbara and tell her about all the news of the past few months. "Grandma, Grandma," they shouted when they saw her coming out of the arrival gate. Barbara hugged them affectionately, but Michael noticed she quickly looked them over from head to toe. The boys' hair was a bit longer, their clothes were more casual than usual, and they had some sunspots from playing outdoors more. "My, how you've all grown," she said, smiling, "and so tanned. Have you been playing in the sun a lot?" "Yes, Aunt Dorothy lets us play in the yard every day," Emma replied excitedly. Barbara's smile faltered a bit. "Aunt Dorothy?" "She's our new nanny," Nathan explained. "But she's not really a nanny. She's a cook. But she takes care of us too. And she knows a ton of cool stuff," Ethan added. Michael noticed the tension on his mother's face, but decided to save the explanations for later. In the car, The triplets chattered the whole way, telling her about the garden, the recipes they had learned to make, and the stories Dorothy invented. Barbara listened to everything in silence, asking specific questions and exchanging meaningful looks with Michael through the rearview mirror. When they arrived home, Dorothy was in the kitchen preparing a welcome dinner for Mrs. Barbara. She had made a special menu: grilled salmon with herbs from the children's garden, Sicilian lemon risotto, and chocolate pie for dessert. "Grandma, come see our garden." Emma pulled Barbara by the hand. "First, let's greet Dorothy, and then you can show me everything," Barbara said politely. They went to the kitchen, where Dorothy was finishing seasoning the salmon. She turned when she heard them enter and wiped her hands on her apron before approaching. "You must be Mrs. Barbara. Pleasure to meet you. I'm Dorothy Wilson. I hope you had a good trip." "Thank you, Dorothy. Michael told me you've been helping with the children." "They're such darlings, very polite and smart." Barbara nodded politely, but Michael noticed she was observing every detail. The familiarity with which the triplets treated Dorothy, the way they moved freely around the kitchen, getting glasses of water and cookies as if it were their territory. "Can the children show Grandma the garden while I finish dinner?" Dorothy asked. Of course, let's go, children." In the backyard, the triplets proudly showed off every plant they had cared for. The seedlings were growing well, some already with large green leaves. "Look, Grandma, this is my chive. It's ready to cut and put in food," Emma said, pointing to her plot. "And this parsley here is huge," Nathan added. "My basil smells nice. Want to smell it?" Ethan offered, picking a leaf for her to smell. Barbara praised everything but couldn't hide some concern. The children were different, more independent, more self-assured, more free. To her, having grown up in New York City high society, this was a sign of lacking proper structure. During dinner, she observed how the triplets interacted naturally with Dorothy. They included her in the conversation, asked her opinion on various subjects, even about the next day's menu. "Aunt Dorothy, tomorrow can we make that pasta that sticks to the roof of your mouth?" Nathan asked. "Gnocchi," Dorothy smiled. "Of course we can. You already know how to make the little balls just right." "I want to help make the sauce," Emma offered. "And can I grate the cheese?" Ethan asked. Barbara watched the scene with growing concern. The children should be learning table manners, not discussing recipes with the housekeeper. After dinner, when the triplets went to sleep and Dorothy retired to her room, Barbara finally spoke alone with Michael. "We need to talk about this situation," she said, pouring herself a glass of wine. "What situation, Mother?" "Dorothy, the children are very close to her, and that's bad." "Michael, she's the housekeeper. She can't be educating your children." "But she's doing an excellent job. They've never been so well behaved and happy." "Because she's not setting proper boundaries. Children who are too happy are children without discipline." Michael sighed. He had imagined this conversation would come. "Mother, since Dorothy started taking care of them, we haven't had any problems. They eat well, sleep well, obey, study." "Study? What studies? Planting lettuce?" "They're learning responsibility, science, math in practice. It's much more efficient than forcing them to memorize multiplication tables." "Michael, don't be naive. You need a nanny with proper training. The children need to learn behavior appropriate for the family's social position." "The family's social position? Mother, they're 4 years old." "Exactly why it's important to start early. Dorothy may be a good person, but she isn't prepared to educate children of our social class." Michael felt anger rising but controlled himself. He didn't want to fight with his mother on her first day back. "Let's see how things develop," he said diplomatically. "No, Michael, we'll resolve this right away. I've already called the best nanny agency in New York City. They have a candidate with European training, specialized in high-end families. She can start next week." "Mother, don't worry about Dorothy. She goes back to the kitchen, which is where she should have stayed all along. Everyone will be happy." Michael wanted to argue back, but he saw the determination in his mother's eyes. Barbara Thompson wasn't the kind of woman to take no for an answer once she made up her mind. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. The next morning, Barbara woke up early to observe the household routine. She hid in the living room, and watched Dorothy preparing breakfast with the triplets. The children were helping set the table, each responsible for a part. Emma took care of the napkins, Nathan the silverware, and Ethan the glasses. They were chatting excitedly about what they would do that day. "Aunt Dorothy, can we pick cherry tomatoes today?" Emma asked. "Of course you can. They're very ripe already. We'll make a colorful salad for lunch." "And that experiment you talked about? The volcano one?" Nathan wanted to know. "That too, after lunch when it's not too hot." "Can I help mix it?" Ethan asked shyly. "Of course, Ethan. You're my official scientific assistant," Dorothy replied, ruffling the boy's curly hair. Barbara watched everything with growing irritation. The children were being treated like miniature adults, participating in decisions that weren't appropriate for their age. Where was the hierarchy? The respect for authority? When Michael came down for breakfast, she pulled him aside. "Did you see that?" she whispered, pointing toward the kitchen. "See what? She treats them like little friends. There's no authority at all. Mom, they're obeying everything she asks. Because she doesn't ask anything difficult. Children need to learn to do things they don't want to do too." Michael shook his head and went to have breakfast with his children. Barbara followed him, watching every interaction. During breakfast, the triplets excitedly talked about their plans for the day. Barbara noticed they asked Dorothy's opinion about everything, from what clothes to wear to what games to play. "Aunt Dorothy, is it too hot for a dress?" Emma asked. "I don't think so, sweetie. But take a cardigan in your bag because it might get cooler in the afternoon." "Can I take my new toy car outside?" Nathan wanted to know. "You can, but bring it back later and put it in the right place." "If I don't want lunch, can I just eat fruit?" Ethan tested. "No way," Dorothy laughed. "Lunch is mandatory, but if you eat everything properly, you can choose which fruit you want for dessert." Barbara paid special attention to this last interaction. Dorothy had set a clear boundary, but in a loving way. Ethan didn't insist, just nodded, accepting the agreement. After breakfast, Michael said goodbye to go to work. Barbara kept watching Dorothy and the children for a few more hours. They went to the backyard to pick tomatoes. Dorothy taught them about how to know when the fruit was just right, explained why some cracked and others didn't. The children asked smart questions, and she answered everything patiently. "Why does the tomato turn red?" Emma wanted to know. "Because inside it has a pigment called lycopene. It's the same thing that makes the sunset red in the sky." "Does the sunset have tomatoes?" Ethan asked, confused. Dorothy laughed. "No, Ethan, but it has the same kind of thing that makes tomatoes red." "Ah," Nathan understood. "Like when we mix red and yellow paint and it turns orange." "That's right. You're very smart." Barbara had to admit the children were learning really interesting things, but she still thought it was inappropriate for a housekeeper to be responsible for their education. After lunch, Dorothy did the promised volcano experiment. She mixed baking soda, vinegar, and a few drops of red food coloring in a small bottle. The result was a foamy eruption that left the triplets thrilled. "How does this work?" Nathan asked, fascinated. "When we mix baking soda with vinegar, they have a chemical reaction. It's like they're fighting, but from the fight comes this foam." "Can I do it again?" Emma asked. "You can, but let's use less vinegar this time. See how too much foam came out." The children repeated the experiment several times, each time understanding the necessary proportions better. Barbara observed how Dorothy stimulated their curiosity, always explaining the why behind things. In the afternoon, when the children went to rest, Barbara finally spoke with Dorothy. "Can I talk with you for a moment?" she called. "Of course, Mrs. Barbara. Is there a problem? Please sit down." Dorothy sat on the edge of the chair, a bit tense. She knew this conversation would come sooner or later. "Dorothy, I wanted to thank you for all the care you've been giving my grandchildren. They're wonderful children. It's easy to take care of them. But I think it's time we go back to the original arrangement. You in the kitchen, a specialized nanny with the children." Dorothy's face closed slightly, but she nodded. "I understand. Whenever Mr. Michael wants, I'll go back to just the kitchen. I've already found an excellent candidate. She has experience with European families, speaks 3 languages, has training in Montessori education. She sounds very qualified. Yes, The children need proper education for the future that awaits them. They'll inherit a large company. They'll have social responsibilities. They need to be prepared. Dorothy was silent for a moment before answering. Mrs. Barbara, can I say something? Of course. I know I don't have the formal education like this new nanny, but I know these children. I know when Ethan is sad but doesn't want to talk. I know that Emma gets angry when she's scared. I know that Nathan makes a mess when he misses his mother. Barbara looked at her surprised. She didn't expect Dorothy to be so direct. They're doing well now, Dorothy continued. They eat well, sleep well, obey, they're learning. Why change something that's working? Because they need more than that. They need to learn proper social behaviors, develop skills that prepare them for their future. And planting tomatoes, doing experiments, learning to cook doesn't develop skills. It does, but they're not the skills they need. Dorothy nodded sadly. All right, Mrs. Barbara. You know what's best for them. Don't be sad, Dorothy. You'll still be here taking care of the house. The children can visit you in the kitchen whenever they want. Visit her in the kitchen, as if she were a distant relative. That night, Dorothy had trouble sleeping. She had grown fond of the triplets in a way she hadn't expected. They filled a void in her life that she didn't even know existed. At 52, Dorothy had never married or had children. She had always been too busy caring for her elderly parents, then working to survive. The triplets had awakened in her a maternal instinct she thought she had lost. The next morning, she woke up earlier than usual and prepared a special breakfast: animal-shaped pancakes, star-cut fruits, and a creamy hot chocolate. When the children came down, they were thrilled. "Wow, what a beautiful breakfast," Emma exclaimed. "The pancake looks like a rabbit," Nathan laughed, pointing to his plate. "Mine is a cat," Ethan observed happily. "It's so you know that you are special," Dorothy said, serving the hot chocolate. "You're special too, Aunt Dorothy," Emma replied, hugging her waist. Barbara came down a few minutes later and saw the scene. The children were eating happily, while Dorothy told a story about the pancake animals that came to life and had adventures in the forest. The bunny pancake found a giant carrot, but it was so big that he needed to call all his friends to help pull it out, she narrated, gesturing animatedly. The triplets paid full attention, asking questions and suggesting directions for the story. Barbara watched how engaged, participatory, and happy they were. A pang of doubt crossed her heart. Was she doing the right thing? But the decision was already made. The new nanny would arrive in the late afternoon for an interview with Michael. Gretchen Müller was a 40-year-old woman, blonde, with a slight German accent and impeccable posture. She presented an impressive resume. She had worked with noble families in Switzerland, diplomats in Germany, and millionaire businessmen in France. "My philosophy is clear," she explained to Michael and Barbara in the living room. "Children need strict structure to develop discipline and responsibility. I work with detailed schedules, development goals, and clear consequences for inappropriate behaviors." Barbara approved immediately. That was quality education. "And what about the emotional relationship with the children?" Michael asked. "Affection is important, but it must be measured. Children who receive too much affection become spoiled and manipulative. I maintain a healthy professional distance." Michael felt a knot in his stomach. That didn't seem right. "Can the children meet you?" Barbara suggested. "Of course, but I prefer that they call me Miss Gretchen." Affectionate nicknames create unnecessary intimacy. The triplets were called to the living room. They entered curiously but instinctively positioned themselves near Dorothy, who had come down to serve tea and cookies. "Children, this is Miss Gretchen." Barbara made the introductions. "She may be your new nanny." "Good afternoon," Emma said politely but without enthusiasm. Nathan and Ethan just waved timidly. "Good afternoon, children. I heard you've been having behavior problems. That will change quickly when I start working here." The triplets exchanged glances. "What behavior problems?" "I establish clear routines," Gretchen continued. "Time to wake up, to eat, to play, to study. No running around the house or touching things you shouldn't." "But we don't run around the house," Nathan protested softly. "Do not interrupt me when I'm speaking," Gretchen reprimanded sharply. That is the first rule. The atmosphere became tense immediately. Dorothy shifted uncomfortably behind the sofa. May I see your room? I need to assess if it is properly organized. They went up in silence. The room was perfectly tidy, as it always was after Dorothy taught them to organize their own belongings. Satisfactory, Gretchen evaluated. But these toys need to be sorted by category. Educational toys on one side, merely recreational on the other. And this number of storybooks is excessive. Children need to focus on textbooks. But we like the stories, Ethan murmured. Preference is not a criterion for education. You will like math and science too when you learn them properly. Emma held Nathan's hand, who was turning red with contained anger. May I see the current activity schedule? Gretchen asked when they returned to the living room. Schedule? Michael was confused. The children's daily program. Times, activities, learning goals. They don't have a formal schedule. Gretchen seemed shocked. How so? 4-year-old children need strict structure. From what I see, they have been raised very permissively. Dorothy couldn't stay silent any longer. Excuse me, she interrupted. The children do have a routine. They wake up at the same time every day, have meals at the right times, have time to play, to learn, and to rest. Gretchen looked at her with disdain. And you are? Dorothy Wilson. I take care of them. The housekeeper. I understand the problem now. Gretchen turned to Michael. Mr. Thompson, with all due respect, but a housekeeper cannot educate children from a distinguished family. This explains the lack of proper structure. Michael's blood boiled, but Barbara stepped in. That's exactly what we think, Gretchen. That's why we decided to hire a qualified professional. Very sensible. I can reverse the damage in a few months, but we'll need to establish clear boundaries from the start. What kind of boundaries? Michael asked, suspicious. First, no more playing in the kitchen. Children don't meddle where adults work. Second, no participating in food preparation. That's the housekeeper's job. Third, strict schedules for everything. Fourth, immediate consequences for disobedience. What kind of consequences? Michael insisted. Deprivation of enjoyable activities, time for reflection in their room, reduction of privileges. The triplets listened in growing silence. Emma began to tear up. I don't want this, Nanny, she whispered to Nathan. Me neither, he replied in the same tone. Ethan moved closer to Dorothy and discreetly held her hand. Miss Gretchen, Michael said after a moment, I need to discuss your proposal with my family. Can we give you an answer tomorrow? Of course, but don't take too long. I have other families interested in my services. After Gretchen left, the house fell into heavy silence. The children went upstairs to their room without a word. Barbara withdrew to make some phone calls. Michael was left alone with Dorothy in the living room. What did you think of her? He asked. Dorothy hesitated before answering. It's not my place to judge, Mr. Michael. I'm asking for your honest opinion. She doesn't like children. How can you be sure? Someone who likes children doesn't talk about reversing damage when referring to them. Someone who likes children sees potential, not problems. Michael nodded thoughtfully. And you? Do you like my children? Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. Very much, Mr. Michael. Too much, even. Then why don't you fight to keep taking care of them? Because it's not my place. Your mother is right, I'm just the housekeeper. To the children, you're not just the housekeeper. To them, you're much more important. Dorothy wiped her eyes with the corner of her apron. But that doesn't change my position here. Mrs. Barbara wants what's best for her grandchildren. Who am I to disagree? You're the person who knows them better than anyone. That evening during dinner, the triplets barely touched their food. They stayed quiet, answering with monosyllables when someone asked them something. You didn't like Miss Gretchen? Barbara asked directly. No, Emma replied bluntly. Why? She's mean, Nathan added. And she doesn't know how to make a volcano, Ethan said sadly. Children, you need to give her a chance. Sometimes people seem strict at first, but then you get used to it. We don't want to get used to it, Emma said, crossing her little arms. We want to stay with Aunt Dorothy, Nathan declared. Aunt Dorothy likes us, Ethan explained with children's simple logic. Barbara sighed. Dorothy may like you, but she isn't equipped to give you the education you need. What education? Emma asked, genuinely confused. For your future. You'll inherit your daddy's company. You'll interact with important people. You need to know how to behave properly. But we already know how to behave, and Nathan protested. Yes, you do, Michael agreed. You're polite, kind, smart, but you need more structure, Barbara insisted. Proper discipline for children of your social standing. I don't want social standing, Emma declared. I want to stay with Aunt Dorothy in the garden. Me too, Nathan agreed. Me too, Ethan repeated. Michael looked at his children and saw the sadness in their little brown eyes. For the first time in 2 years since Sarah's departure, they had been truly happy, and Barbara wanted to take that away from them in the name of a proper education. Mother, he said calmly, I think we need to rethink this decision. Michael, the children are fine, happy, healthy, well-mannered. Why fix what isn't broken? Because it's not just about being well today. It's about properly preparing them for tomorrow. And who says Dorothy isn't preparing them properly? Barbara was speechless for a moment. She didn't expect her son to question her like that. She's a housekeeper, Michael. She has no teaching degree. But she has genuine love for them, and she's getting results that 15 trained nannies couldn't. Temporary results. A child raised with too much permissiveness causes problems later. Permissiveness? Mother, the children obey everything Dorothy asks. They eat on time, sleep on time, do their chores. But they're not learning proper social boundaries. They're learning empathy, responsibility, curiosity, cooperation. What social boundaries are more important than these? Dorothy followed the discussion in silence, washing dishes at the sink. The triplets were also listening to everything, anxiously awaiting the outcome. If we're to continue with Dorothy, Barbara said finally, at least hire a private tutor to supplement their education. That could work, Michael agreed. But Dorothy stays as the primary caregiver. All right, Barbara conceded, not very convinced. But if there's any problem, any inappropriate behavior from the children, we hire Gretchen immediately. The triplets exploded with joy. Yay! Emma jumped from her chair. Aunt Dorothy stays, Nathan celebrated. Thank you, Daddy. Ethan ran to hug Michael. Dorothy leaned against the sink, relieved with tears of gratitude in her eyes. But the victory would be temporary. Barbara had given in for now, but she hadn't given up on her plans. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. In the following weeks, Barbara watched Dorothy's every move with the children, looking for flaws that would justify replacing her. She mentally noted every occasion when the children got dirty, made a mess, or behaved in a way she considered inappropriate. One day, she caught the triplets playing at making mud pies in the backyard, with Dorothy supervising the dirty play. Another day, she found them in the kitchen putting their hands in the bread dough, literally. On a third occasion, she witnessed a flour war that left the whole kitchen dusty and the children unrecognizable. They were so white. Is this education? She complained to Michael. They look like street urchins. They look like happy children, Michael retorted. When was the last time you saw them laugh so much? Children don't need to laugh that much. They need to learn discipline. Mother, you're exaggerating. They're learning, developing, obeying. The fact that they're having fun while doing it isn't a flaw, it's an advantage. Barbara realized she was losing the battle, but she didn't give up. She decided to try a different approach. One morning, she called Dorothy for a private talk in the office. Dorothy, have a seat. I want to make you a proposal. Of course, Mrs. Barbara. I'll be direct. You are a good person, the children like you, but I still think they need a more formal education. Dorothy nodded, expecting the worst. How about if I pay for a teaching course for you? A night college, so it doesn't interfere with your work here. In a few years, you would have proper training to continue educating the children. Dorothy's eyes widened. You would do that? I would, but with one condition. What? While you study, we hire an assistant nanny, someone with training who can guide your educational work with the children. Dorothy fell silent, analyzing the proposal. It was too generous not to have a catch. What kind of guidance? Appropriate teaching methods, structured educational activities, preparation for literacy. And this assistant nanny, would she take care of the children when I'm at college? Exactly. How many times a week? Every evening. And on weekends when you have assignments to do. Dorothy understood. Barbara was offering the perfect bait, a chance to study, graduate, have a real profession. In return, she would gradually lose her time with the children to this assistant nanny. It's a very generous proposal, Mrs. Barbara. I need to think. Of course, but don't take too long. I've already found an excellent candidate for the assistant nanny. Dorothy left the office with her head spinning. It was the hardest dilemma of her life. Accept the chance to fulfill an old dream or maintain the closeness with the children she had learned to love as her own. That afternoon, while the triplets did their homework at the kitchen table, she observed every detail of that routine she knew by heart. Emma bit the tip of her pencil when she was thinking. Nathan made funny faces when he found something difficult. Ethan always finished first and stayed helping his siblings. Aunt Dorothy, are you sad? Emma asked, looking up from her notebook. Why do you ask? You have that face when it rains and we can't go to the backyard. Dorothy smiled despite the anguish. I'm just thinking about some things, sweetie. Do you want help thinking? Nathan offered. We're good at solving problems. It's true, Ethan agreed. We solved the garden problem when the snails were eating the plants. And the cake batter problem when it got too hard, Emma recalled. And the experiment problem that wasn't working, Nathan completed. Dorothy was moved by the children's innocent wisdom. They truly believed they could help with anything. Thank you, my darlings. When I decide what to do, I'll tell you. That night, she stayed up late, weighing the pros and cons. Studying education had always been her dream. In her youth, she wanted to be a teacher, but financial difficulties forced her to work as a housekeeper since she was 17. Now, at 52, it might be her last chance to fulfill that dream. On the other hand, the triplets had become her family. The idea of gradually losing them to someone else was too painful. The next morning, Michael found her in the kitchen earlier than usual, preparing an elaborate breakfast. You woke up early today, he commented, pouring himself some coffee. I couldn't sleep very well. Any problems? Dorothy hesitated. Would it be appropriate to discuss Barbara's proposal with Michael? Mrs. Barbara offered me an opportunity to study education, she finally said. Michael stopped with the cup halfway to his mouth. Really? That's great. Yes, but there are some conditions. What kind of conditions? Dorothy explained the entire proposal. Evening college, the assistant nanny, the gradual distancing from the children. Michael listened to everything in silence, his brow furrowing more and more. I see, he said when she finished. My mother doesn't give up easily. The offer is generous. It is. But do you want to accept? I want to study. I always have. But I don't want to lose these children. They've become my family. Michael was moved by the confession. What if I told you that you can study without losing the children? How? College on Saturdays. There are several courses that only run on weekends. You continue with them during the week, study on Saturday, and on Sunday you rest or study at home. Dorothy's eyes sparkled. There are courses like that, really? There are, and I'll pay for it. No conditions, no extra nannies, no changes to the current routine. Mr. Michael, the children need you, Dorothy, and you deserve to fulfill your dream of becoming a teacher. Let's find a way to make both things happen. Dorothy began to cry with emotion. Thank you, Mr. Michael, thank you so much. You're welcome. Now dry those eyes before the children come down and think something bad happened. They laughed together, complicit in that moment of mutual understanding and affection. When Barbara found out about Michael's decision, she was furious. You're spoiling the maid, she accused. I'm valuing someone who takes good care of my children. This will cause problems in the future. What problems? She might want rights she doesn't have. She might feel entitled to make decisions about the children. She might even try to emotionally blackmail you. Mother, You're being unfair to Dorothy. She's never given us any reason to distrust her. Not yet. But humble people can change when they receive too many favors. Michael shook his head, tired of arguing. Mother, my decision is made. Dorothy will study education. She will continue to care for the children, and I won't hear any more criticism about it. Barbara realized she had lost that battle, but the war wasn't over yet. She decided to change her strategy once again. A few weeks later, she returned from the club with some troubling information. Michael, I need to tell you something, she said, entering the office where he was working. What is it now, Mother? I heard a disturbing story about housekeepers who take advantage of families' trust. Michael sighed. What story? Margaret, Dr. Anderson's wife, told me that their housekeeper had been stealing money for years. They caught her because a neighbor saw her buying things too expensive for her salary. And what does that have to do with Dorothy? Nothing specific. But have you noticed what she's been buying? Buying? What buying? Books, materials for the children, plants for the garden. Where does the money for all that come from? Michael became thoughtful. Indeed, Dorothy always had new materials for activities with the triplets, children's storybooks, different seeds to plant. Maybe she uses her own salary, he suggested. Michael, be realistic. Her salary barely covers basic needs. How is there money left over for all these extra things? A seed of doubt was planted in Michael's mind. Not that he suspected Dorothy was stealing, but he began to pay attention to her spending. The next day, he noticed she had bought a new set of children's science books. The day after that, aromatic plant seeds appeared that she hadn't mentioned buying. The following week, materials for a new science experiment. Michael began to grow curious about how she managed to afford all that. One afternoon, he decided to address the matter directly. Dorothy, can I ask you something? Of course, Mr. Michael. Where do you get the money to buy so many things for the children? Dorothy's face turned red. What do you mean? The books, the materials for experiments, the seeds. All that costs money. I buy them with my salary. But don't you spend on other things? Clothes, medicine, your family? Dorothy looked down, embarrassed. I do spend, but what's left over I like to use on the children. Is there a lot left over? No, not a lot, no. Michael realized there was something more. Dorothy was hiding something. Dorothy, you can trust me. If you're having financial difficulties, I can help. But I need to know the truth. She took a deep breath like someone deciding to say something difficult. Mr. Michael, I also work overnight. What do you mean? After you all go to sleep, I do sewing jobs on the side. I fix clothes, hem pants, things like that. It's extra money I use to buy things for the children. Michael was shocked. Dorothy, you work here all day and still work overnight? Just a few hours. It doesn't interfere with my work here. But you need to rest. When do you sleep? I do sleep, Mr. Michael. About 4 or 5 hours a night. It's enough. Enough? Dorothy, that's crazy. You'll get sick. No, I won't. I'm used to it. And why do you do it? Why don't you ask me for a raise if you need more money? Dorothy hesitated before answering. Because it's not my need, Mr. Michael. It's my wish. I want the children to have the best things, the best materials. I want them to learn as much as possible. But that's not your obligation. I'm the one who should pay for all that. You already pay my salary, my food, my room. This here is out of love. Michael was speechless. Dorothy was sacrificing herself, working through the night to provide extra things for his children. It was a level of dedication he had never encountered, not even in the highest paid nannies. From today on, you stop with these overnight jobs, he ordered, and I will increase your salary so you can buy whatever you want for the children. You don't have to, Mr. Michael. Yes, I do. I won't allow you to work yourself to death because of my children. But I enjoy doing it. Then keep doing it, but with my money, not with your health. Dorothy began to cry with emotion. You are so good to me. You are the one who is too good to us, Dorothy. Too good. When Barbara found out about the discovery, she became even more alarmed. Don't you see what's happening? She said to Michael. I do see. I see that Dorothy dedicates herself to my children more than anyone in the world. That excessive dedication isn't normal, Michael. It's obsession. What do you mean, obsession? A single woman with no children who gets too attached to other people's children. That could be dangerous. Mother, for heaven's sake, no, Michael, listen to me. She's creating an unhealthy emotional dependency. The children depend on her for everything. She's sacrificing herself for them. That's not normal. It's love, Mother. It's called love. It's called possessiveness, and it can become a serious problem. Michael began to get irritated with his mother's constant insinuations. What problem, Mother? What problem could there be with a person who loves my children and takes good care of them? And when they grow up, and when they don't need her anymore, what will happen? I don't know. We'll see when the time comes. It will be too late. Emotional dependency builds up slowly, but it's very hard to break. Mother, I won't discuss this anymore. Dorothy stays, period. Barbara realized she was losing her son's patience. She needed to be more subtle. A few weeks later, she arranged a casual meeting with Dorothy. Dorothy, it's good to find you here in the kitchen alone, she said, pretending to be natural. Hello, Mrs. Barbara, the children are playing in the backyard. That's good. I wanted to talk to you about something important. Of course. Have you thought about the future? What do you mean? Your future. What will happen to you when the children grow up? Dorothy was taken aback by the question. I don't understand. Dorothy, you are 52 years old. The children are 4. When they are teenagers, you will be 60. When they are adults, you will be nearly 70. So what? So teenagers don't need a nanny. Adults even less. Have you thought about what you will do with your life when you no longer have these children to care for? The question hit Dorothy like a punch. She had never thought about it so directly. I haven't thought about it yet. Well, you should. You're building your entire life around children who aren't yours. And one day they'll grow up, get married, have their own families. Where will you be in that story? Dorothy felt a tightness in her chest. Are you trying to say something specific? I'm trying to say that you need to have your own life, your own plans. You can't depend emotionally on children who will leave sooner or later. But they won't leave. Yes, they will, Dorothy. It's natural. That's how life works. Children grow up and follow their own paths. Dorothy fell silent, absorbing Barbara's words. That's why I insist on the teaching degree idea, Barbara continued, so you can have a real profession, your own career, so you don't depend only on the affection of these children. But Mr. Michael said I could study on Saturdays, and you can. But studying teaching to take care of other people's children is different from studying to have your own career, your own school, your own classes. I don't understand the difference. The difference is that in a school, you're the teacher. Here you're an employee who studies teaching. In a school, you're in charge. You make decisions. You have authority. Here you obey. You follow decisions. You have no power. Dorothy began to understand where Barbara was going with this. Do you think I should leave here? I think you should think about your future more carefully. You deserve to have your own life, not just live for others. But I like taking care of them, and you can keep liking it. But as an independent professional, not as a dependent employee. Barbara's words planted a seed of restlessness in Dorothy's mind. She really hadn't thought much about the future. She had always lived one day at a time, without making long-term plans. Was Barbara right? Was she building an unsustainable life based on the love for children who would one day grow up and no longer need her? That night she had trouble sleeping. Barbara's words echoed in her mind like a disturbing warning. The next day, she watched the triplets with different eyes. They really were the center of her life. She woke up thinking about them, spent the day taking care of them, went to sleep planning activities for the next day. Was that level of involvement healthy? Was it normal? During lunch, Emma asked an innocent question that left Dorothy even more unsettled. Aunt Dorothy, do you have children? No, sweetie, I don't. Why not? Because sometimes things in life don't happen the way we plan. But did you want to have children? Nathan asked. Dorothy hesitated. Yes, I did. Then, can we be your borrowed children? Ethan suggested innocently. Dorothy's heart tightened. You already have a daddy who loves you very much. But we can love you too, right? Emma insisted. Yes, you can, my love. Then you're our second mom, Nathan concluded, satisfied. And we are your borrowed children, Ethan completed, smiling. Dorothy left the table with teary eyes. The children had put into words exactly what she felt, but what Barbara had suggested was dangerous and unhealthy. Was there really something wrong with loving those children as if they were her own? That afternoon, while they played in the yard, she caught herself imagining what it would be like when they grew up. Teenagers wouldn't need her to help with homework, prepare special snacks, or invent educational games. Adults, even less so. One day they would get married, have their own children, build their lives far from that house. And she would be... where? For the first time since she had started working at the Thompson house, Dorothy felt genuinely worried about her own future. Barbara had managed to plant the seed of doubt. Now it was just a matter of waiting for it to sprout. In the following days, Dorothy grew quieter than usual. The children noticed the change. "Aunt Dorothy, are you sad again?" Emma asked. "Why do you think I'm sad?" "Because you're not singing while you cook." It was true. Dorothy always hummed while she worked, especially when she was happy. Now she couldn't get the worries about the future out of her head. "I'm just thinking about some things," she replied. "Again?" Nathan observed. "You've been thinking a lot lately." "That's just what growing up is like. You think more." "So, when we grow up, are we going to be all thoughtful like you?" Ethan asked. "Maybe." "Then I don't want to grow up," Emma declared. "I want to stay little forever and play with you forever." Emma's innocent comment touched exactly the wound that Barbara had opened. Dorothy also wanted them to stay little forever, to keep needing her forever. But that was impossible, and maybe it wasn't even healthy. That night, she made a decision that would change everything. Dorothy decided she would look for a job at a real school. She would use her experience with the triplets as a reference and try for a position as a teaching assistant in early childhood education. It was time to build her own career, her own professional identity. The next morning, she woke up determined and began searching for job openings in newspapers and on websites. She found some interesting opportunities at private schools in the area. But as the day went on and she saw the triplets playing, laughing, and learning, her determination began to waver. How could she leave those children who had become her reason for living? During lunch, Ethan drew a picture of her with them in the backyard. The family was complete on paper. Daddy, Grandma Barbara, the three triplets, and Aunt Dorothy, all holding hands, smiling. "It's our family," he explained proudly, handing her the drawing. "It's beautiful, Ethan," she said, her voice choked up. "Are you going to put it on the fridge?" Emma asked. "Yes, I am." "Forever?" Nathan wanted to know. "Forever." Dorothy stuck the drawing on the refrigerator door, but inside her heart was breaking. How could she explain to those children that she was thinking of leaving? In the afternoon, while they were doing their homework, she received a phone call. It was from a private school that had found her resume interesting and wanted to schedule an interview. "Can you come tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon?" the secretary asked. Dorothy looked at the triplets, focused on their notebooks. At 2 in the afternoon, they would be waking up from their nap, wanting to play, wanting to share their news. "Yes, I can," she replied, against her own will. "Great. Bring your documents and references from previous jobs." After hanging up the phone, Dorothy just kept looking at the children. How would she get work references if she had always been a housekeeper? Her only real experience with childhood education was those 8 months taking care of the triplets. "Aunt Dorothy, can you help me with this problem?" Nathan asked. "Of course, sweetheart." She approached and saw he was trying to solve a simple addition, 7 plus 5. "Shall we use our fingers?" she suggested. Nathan showed 7 fingers, then 5 more. He counted them all together and got the result, 12. "Very good. Now try this one, 9 plus 4. While helping Nathan with math, supervising Emma as she drew a picture about the seasons, and guiding Ethan to write his name neatly, Dorothy realized something important. She had truly become an educator. She didn't have a diploma, but she had practical knowledge. She knew how to make a child understand difficult concepts, how to stimulate creativity, how to set boundaries with affection. She had developed her own methods, tested in daily life with proven results. Perhaps Barbara was right about her needing professional independence, but perhaps she was wrong about needing to leave that house to achieve it. That night, Dorothy had an honest conversation with Michael. "Mr. Michael, I need to speak with you about something important." "Of course, Dorothy. Have a seat." "I scheduled a job interview at a school." Michael's face completely changed. "What do you mean?" "Your mother made me think about my future. She's right, I need to have my own career. But, do you want to leave here?" "I don't, but I think I need to." Michael stayed silent for a long moment. "Because of what my mother said. Partly, but also because I started to realize she's right about some things." "About what things?" "That I need to have my own professional life, that it's not healthy for me to depend emotionally only on these children." "Dorothy, you don't depend only on them. You have your own personality, your own interests, your own talents. But all of that revolves around them, Mr. Michael. I wake up thinking about them, spend the day taking care of them, go to sleep planning activities for them. And that's bad." "I don't know. Your mother thinks so." Michael sighed deeply. "Dorothy, can I ask you a question?" "You may. Are you happy here?" "Very happy." "Are the children happy with you?" "I think so." "Am I happy with your work?" "I hope so." "Then what's the problem?" Dorothy became thoughtful. "The problem is the future, what happens when they grow up." "I don't know. But why worry about that now? They'll still need you for many years. And after that? We'll see then. Maybe you'll really want to work at a school. Maybe you'll prefer to stay here helping with other things. Maybe I'll need a house manager, a trusted person to take care of everything." "You would do that?" "Dorothy, you've become part of this family. I won't let you leave if that's not what you really want." "But what if it is?" "If that's what you really want, I'll support you. But first I need to be sure it's your decision, not pressure from my mother." Dorothy was moved by Michael's words. "Thank you, Mr. Michael, for everything." "Dorothy, cancel that interview, at least for today. Let's try to resolve this another way." "How?" "I'll talk to my mother. Seriously, I'll make it clear that you stay as long as you want to stay. And if she doesn't accept it, she'll have to accept it. This is my house, my children, my decision." The next morning, Michael had the most direct conversation he'd ever had with his mother. "Mother, we need to resolve this situation once and for all." "What situation?" "Your campaign against Dorothy." Barbara pretended not to understand. "I'm not campaigning against anyone." "Yes, you are. And you're making her insecure, worried, thinking she needs to leave here. Perhaps it really is better for her to leave, for everyone's good." "For whose good, Mother?" "The children are happy. I'm satisfied. She's fulfilled. Who's suffering in this story?" Barbara was left without an answer for a moment. "I'm worried about the children's future, Michael." "What specific aspect of the future worries you?" "Their formal education, their preparation for the social life they'll have." "Mother, they're 4 years old. We still have many years to think about that. Education starts from infancy, and it's being done well. They know how to read some words, do simple math, know basic science, are polite, kind, cooperative. But they don't know how to behave at social events, don't know proper etiquette, don't have the demeanor of children of our class." "And is that important at 4 years old?" Barbara realized she was being directly confronted and decided to be honest. "Michael, I'm afraid Dorothy wants to replace Sarah in these children's lives." The truth had finally come out. Michael was surprised by his mother's sincerity. "Replace how?" "As a maternal figure, as their main female reference." "And what would be the problem with that?" "She's not their mother, Michael. And she's not a woman from our social circle. But she's taking better care of them than anyone has managed to do so far. For now. But what about when they're older, when they need guidance about relationships, careers, social standing? Then we'll supplement their education. We'll hire private tutors, put them in good schools, do whatever is necessary. And Dorothy, she'll continue to be an important part of their lives, like a dear aunt, a second mother, a special person they'll always remember fondly." Barbara fell silent, processing her son's words. "Do you really think that can work?" "I think it's already working, Mother. The problem is you don't want to see it." Perhaps I'm being too rigid. You are. And you're hurting a good person who only wants the best for your grandchildren. Barbara sighed deeply. All right, Michael. I'll try to accept the situation. Not accept, Mother. Support. Dorothy deserves our support, not our tolerance. You're right. I'll make an effort to support her. Later that day, Barbara sought out Dorothy in the kitchen. Dorothy, can I speak with you? Of course, Mrs. Barbara. I want to apologize. Dorothy stopped washing the dishes, surprised. Apologize for what? For putting unnecessary pressure on you. For questioning your work with the children. You were thinking of their well-being. I was thinking of what I thought was their well-being, but perhaps you know better than I do what they need. Dorothy was moved by Barbara's sincerity. Thank you very much, Mrs. Barbara. And about that college story, son, the offer still stands, but with no conditions. If you want to study, I'll pay for it. If you prefer to continue as you are, I'll support that too. You would really do that? I would. You've earned that right by taking such good care of my grandchildren. Thank you, Mrs. Barbara. Thank you so much. You're welcome, dear. And I'm sorry for being so difficult with you. They hugged, finally at peace. That afternoon, Dorothy cancelled the interview at the school. Her place was there, with those children who had become her family. But the story wouldn't end so simply. A few weeks later, an unexpected event would change everything again. Michael received an irresistible job offer to manage the New York City branch of a multinational company. The salary was excellent, the growth prospects enormous, but there was a problem. The company was in Denver. He would have to move with the family. Denver? Barbara was shocked. But our whole life is in New York City. I know, Mother, but it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it would be good for the children too, to start a new life far away from so many sad memories. And Dorothy? Dorothy is coming with us, obviously. But she has a life here, family, friends. I'll talk to her. If she wants to come, great. If she doesn't, I'll understand. When Michael told Dorothy the news, she was completely disconcerted. Denver? But I've never left New York City in my life. I know it's a difficult decision, but I'd really like you to come with us. And the children? The children will be devastated if you don't come. You know that. Dorothy really did know. The triplets couldn't imagine life without her. Can I think about it? Of course, but don't take too long. I need to give them an answer in 2 weeks. Dorothy spent the following days torn between the excitement of seeing a new place and the fear of leaving everything she knew behind. When the children found out about the move, they were excited about the adventure. But when they realized Dorothy was unsure about going along, they became desperate. What do you mean you're not coming? Emma asked with teary eyes. We can't go without you, Nathan protested. Who's going to take care of us? Ethan wanted to know, already starting to cry. Daddy will hire someone really cool in Denver. No one is as cool as you, Emma interrupted. And no one knows how to make a volcano, Nathan added. And no one knows the story of the brave chicken, Ethan finished sobbing. Dorothy hugged them, her heart heavy. Don't cry, my darlings. Let me think it over carefully and then I'll decide. You have to decide to come with us, Emma said determinedly. Otherwise, we're not going either. Don't say that. It's true, Nathan agreed. If you don't come, we'll run away back to New York City. And I'll help, Ethan finished, wiping his tears with the back of his hand. Dorothy realized there was no real choice. Those children needed her, and she needed them. They were her real family. All right, she said, smiling. We're going to Denver together. The triplets exploded with joy, jumping and shouting with happiness. The move happened 2 months later. The new house in Denver was beautiful, with an even bigger backyard for the children to play in. Dorothy got a nice, spacious room, and Michael made sure to install her dream kitchen. So you can keep working your culinary magic, he joked. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. The first few months in Denver were a time of adjustment. The children started a new school, made new friends. Dorothy discovered the city, found other parks and interesting places to take the triplets. But the move brought something unexpected. Michael started coming home earlier. The work in Denver, although challenging, had more flexible hours. He began to participate more in the children's routine. Initially, Dorothy was apprehensive. Did Michael think she couldn't handle it on her own? Did he want to take on more responsibilities with the children? But she quickly realized that wasn't it. Michael had simply rediscovered the joy of spending time with his children. He came home eager to hear what they had learned that day, what new games Dorothy had invented, what experiments they had done together. "Dorothy, you've transformed my children," he said one afternoon, watching the three playing in the backyard. "And you've transformed me too." "How so?" "You taught me that raising children isn't just about scolding and setting rules, it's about participating, taking an interest, being truly involved. You've always been a caring father." "I was absent, Dorothy. I left everything in the hands of the nannies and only showed up to say goodnight. You showed me I can be a present father without stopping work. The children love it when you come home early. And I love being with them. I'm discovering things about my own children I never knew before." Dorothy smiled, happy to see that family rebuilding itself so beautifully. 6 months after the move, Michael made a decision that surprised everyone. He asked Dorothy to marry him. It wasn't a traditional romantic proposal. It was during a regular dinner with the children at the table, Barbara visiting from New York City. "Dorothy," he said suddenly, stopping eating, "marry me." Everyone at the table fell completely silent. Dorothy almost choked on the piece of chicken she was chewing. "I beg your pardon," she managed to say after taking a sip of water. "Marry me. Let's make this family that already exists in fact official." The children exploded with excitement. "Yay! Aunt Dorothy is going to become our mother," Emma shouted. "Really?" Nathan asked, euphoric. "Is she going to live with us forever?" Ethan wanted to be sure. "Forever," Michael confirmed, smiling. Dorothy was in complete shock. "Mr. Michael, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Emma pleaded. "Please," Nathan begged. "We're going to be a real family," Ethan added. Barbara watched the scene with a smile on her lips. The move to Denver had done everyone good. Michael had become a more present father, the children were even happier, and Dorothy had become the centerpiece of that rebuilt family. "Dorothy," Michael continued, "I'm not asking for romantic passion. I'm asking because you're already the mother of my children. You're already my partner in everything that matters. You already share with me all the responsibilities of our family. But marriage, it's just making official what already exists, giving you legal security, giving the children emotional stability, giving a name to what we've already lived for over a year." Dorothy looked at the triplets, who stared at her with total expectation. She looked at Barbara, who nodded encouragingly. She looked at Michael, who waited patiently for her answer. "All right," she said finally. "I accept." The house exploded in celebration. The children ran to hug her, shouting with joy. Barbara applauded emotionally. Michael stood up and kissed her face tenderly. "Thank you, Dorothy, for accepting our crazy family. Thank you for letting me be part of it." The wedding was simple, in a civil ceremony with only the family present. Barbara was the proud matron of honor. The triplets were ring bearer and flower girls at the same time, carrying the rings in a little basket decorated by themselves. Dorothy wore a light blue dress that Emma helped choose. Michael looked elegant in a grey suit that Nathan approved. Ethan was responsible for throwing rose petals from the home garden. During the ceremony, when the judge asked if anyone opposed the marriage, Emma shouted, "I support it very much." Everyone laughed, including the judge. When they asked Michael if he accepted Dorothy as his wife, he replied, "I do. She was already my family before I even knew it." And when they asked Dorothy if she accepted Michael as her husband, she said, "I do. But mainly, I accept being the official mother of these 3 wonderful children." The triplets couldn't contain their happiness. After the wedding, the family's life continued naturally. Dorothy didn't change her last name. She remained Dorothy Wilson Thompson, but she changed her official role in the house. Now she was the lady of the house, the mother of the children, Michael's wife. The adaptation was surprisingly easy because, in practice, nothing changed. They had already been functioning as a family for over a year. The marriage only made official feelings and relationships that already existed. 1 year after the wedding, Dorothy finally started her pedagogy degree. Michael insisted on paying for a quality course at a private university in Denver. "Now you can study to be the best teacher in the world," he said, "and then teach other parents how to educate children with as much love as you educated ours." Dorothy graduated 3 years later, with honors. On graduation day, the triplets, now 8 years old, went on stage to hand her the diploma. "Our mother is the best teacher in the world," Emma announced into the microphone. "She knows how to make a volcano and teach math," Nathan added. "And she makes the best bread in the universe," Ethan completed. The audience gave a standing ovation, moved by that scene of family love. After graduating, Dorothy opened a small, early childhood school in the backyard of the house. Michael built a beautiful and suitable building at the back of the property, where she received 15 children from 3 to 6 years old. The school was called Dorothy's Garden and quickly became a reference in Denver for its caring and effective methodology. Dorothy applied with other children everything she had learned while caring for the triplets: love, patience, creativity, and total dedication. The triplets themselves helped at the school in the afternoons, teaching science experiments to the younger children, assisting with artistic activities, and being examples of kind and cooperative behavior. "You are the best assistants a teacher could ever have," Dorothy would tell them. "It's because you taught us how to be good," Emma replied. "And because we learned that teaching is like caring," Nathan added. "And caring is like loving," Ethan finished, always with his simple wisdom. Barbara, who now spent half the year in Denver with the family, became Dorothy's biggest defender. She told all her friends the story of the housekeeper who became an educator and saved her family. "I almost made the biggest mistake of my life," she confided. "I almost took away from the children the best thing that ever happened to them. But in the end, everything worked out," Dorothy always replied. "What matters is that we got here together." "We got here because of you, Dorothy. You taught us that family is built with love, not with social rules." 10 years after the first day Dorothy cared for the triplets, they were already 14-year-old teenagers. They remained close to her, despite all the normal changes of adolescence. Emma had become a determined and caring young woman who wanted to study medicine to take care of people just like Mama Dorothy does. Nathan discovered a talent for exact sciences and dreamed of becoming an engineer, to build beautiful schools just like Mama's. Ethan developed artistic sensitivity and wrote children's stories inspired by the ones Dorothy used to invent. "You've grown up so much," she said one afternoon, watching the three studying at the kitchen table, a place that remained the heart of the home. "We've grown, but we haven't forgotten," Emma replied, looking up from her books. "We'll never forget who taught us to be good people," Nathan added. "And when we have children, we'll take care of them just like you took care of us," Ethan promised. Dorothy was moved, as always happened when they showed their affection for her. "You are my greatest pride," she said, "and my greatest happiness." "You are also our greatest pride," Emma declared. "The woman who started out cooking and ended up changing lives. She started by seasoning food and ended up seasoning hearts," Nathan said poetically. "And she never stopped making volcanoes." Ethan laughed, remembering the childhood experiments. They laughed together. A family built not by blood but by unconditional love, daily dedication, and the constant choice to be present in each other's lives. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. That night, Michael found Dorothy in the backyard, stargazing as she liked to do when she wanted to think. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, sitting beside her on the swing he had built years earlier. "About how surprising life is," she replied. "Who would have thought that a 52-year-old housekeeper would find her true family at 53? Who would have thought that a desperate father would find salvation in his own kitchen?" They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching the starry Denver sky. "Dorothy," Michael finally said, "thank you." "For what?" "For doing the impossible. For saving my children when I no longer knew what to do. For teaching me how to be a real father. for building a family where there was once only pain. Thank you for letting me be part of their lives, for giving me the chance to be a mother, for showing me that it's never too late to start a new life. Do you think we did everything right? I think we did everything with love. And when you do things with love, it always works out in the end. Michael held her hand and they stayed like that, gazing at the stars, two survivors who had found in each other the family they thought they had lost forever. Inside the house, the triplets were finishing their homework at the kitchen table, just like they had always done since they were little. Every now and then, one of them would look out the window and see their parents in the backyard. "They're talking again," Emma observed. "They always do that," Nathan commented. "I guess they have a lot to talk about." "Of course they do," Ethan said with the wisdom of his 14 years. "When two people truly love each other, they never run out of things to talk about." "Just like us," Emma smiled. "We always have something to talk about because we love each other." "We're a lucky family," Nathan concluded. "The luckiest family in the world," Ethan agreed. And they really were. A family built by the most unlikely circumstances, but solidified by the truest love. A family that proved that kinship isn't just about blood ties, but is built through care, dedication, presence, and the daily choice to love. Dorothy Wilson had entered that house as a housekeeper, but she became the centerpiece of a rebuilt family. She had seasoned not just the food, but the entire atmosphere of that house, bringing warmth, joy, learning, and most importantly, unconditional love. The triplets grew up knowing they had two mothers, one who brought them into the world and who remained alive in their sweetest memories, and another who saved them when they needed it most and raised them to be good and happy people. Michael rediscovered fatherhood and found a partner who shared with him not only the responsibilities of the house, but all the dreams and plans for the children's future. Barbara learned that a good education goes far beyond diplomas and social status, residing in the ability to love, teach, and build character. And Dorothy fulfilled dreams she didn't even know she had. To be a mother, to be an educator, to be part of a real family, to be loved and valued for who she truly was. Years passed. The triplets became successful and fulfilled adults, each following their own paths, but always keeping the values Dorothy had planted in their hearts. Kindness, generosity, curiosity, responsibility, and love for family. Emma graduated as a doctor and opened a community clinic in the same neighborhood where Dorothy had grown up in Kentucky. Nathan became an engineer and specialized in building schools in underprivileged communities. Ethan became a children's book author who taught important values through enchanting stories. All of them started their own families, but they continued to gather at the house in Denver on weekends, bringing spouses and children to meet and spend time with Grandma Dorothy, as the grandchildren called her. The kitchen table remained the center of the house, now extended to accommodate a family that had grown far beyond what anyone could have imagined on that first day when a cook decided to calm three desperate children. Dorothy, now in her 70s, continued to tell stories to her grandchildren, teaching special recipes, doing simple science experiments, and inventing educational games. Her school had grown into a network of 3 locations in Denver, all operating with the same philosophy of love and dedication. Michael, retired, spent his mornings helping with the school administration and his afternoons playing with his grandchildren in the backyard that had witnessed so many special moments for that family. Barbara, now a lady in her early 80s, had settled permanently in Denver and had become the greatest advocate of Dorothy's story. She would tell anyone who would listen how a housekeeper had saved her family and changed her view on what truly matters in life. On a special afternoon, when the whole family was gathered to celebrate Michael and Dorothy's 20th wedding anniversary, Emma gave a moving speech. "Mama Dorothy, when we were little and impossible, you taught us that every child needs love, patience, and someone who believes in them. You turned 3 little destroyers into people who want to build a better world. You taught us that family isn't about who you're born with, but who chooses to stay together. And we all choose to stay with you forever." Nathan added, "You showed us that education isn't just about teaching math and language, but about teaching how to be good people. You educated us with your heart, and that's why our hearts are good." Ethan concluded, You proved that the impossible is only impossible when we don't have enough love to make it possible. Thank you for doing the impossible for us every day." Dorothy moved, looked around the table and saw smiling faces, eyes shining with affection, hands reaching out to touch hers. She saw the family she had helped build, the dreams she had helped realize, the love she had helped multiply. "Thank you," she said with a choked voice, "for letting me be part of this wonderful family, for teaching me that it's never too late to find our true calling in life. You gave me much more than I gave you." "Impossible," Michael said, holding her hand. "You gave your all to make this family work." "And received it all back, multiplied," Barbara added, smiling. That night, after everyone had left, Michael and Dorothy returned to the backyard as they had done for 20 years to watch the stars and talk about life. "We did it," Michael said. "We built a beautiful family." "We did," Dorothy agreed. "And the best part is, we did it together." "Do you have any regrets?" "None. And you?" "Just one." "What?" "That it took me so long to realize you were already part of the family from day one. But you realized at the right time, the time when we were all ready." They smiled, satisfied with the life they had built together, with the children they had raised, with the love they had multiplied. Dorothy Wilson had started as a humble cook who knew how to season food. She ended up as a devoted mother who knew how to season entire lives with love, patience, and wisdom. She had truly done the impossible, turned pain into joy, despair into hope, a broken house into a united family. And so, in the tranquility of that starry night in Denver, two people who had found in each other the family they had been searching for their whole lives confirmed once again that true love really can make any impossible become possible. End of story. Now tell me what you thought of this moving story and where you're watching us from. If this story touched your heart in any way, leave your sincere words in the comments. Do you believe Dorothy made the right decisions throughout her journey? We would love to read your opinion. Thank you so much for your company up to this point. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other stories that will move you.